talking real loud, spreading on lies, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules in this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track.
Another Queen Ahmadiyyah production.
Haze on the corner, they talking real loud, spreading on lies, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules in this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. Haze on the corner, they talking real loud, spreading on lies, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams.
All right, hello everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur show. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, and this is your morning wake-up call. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. Okay, now let's see who's in here. Desmond, Yvette, all right, Emperor Rex, Sheila, Claudette. All right, Lady Painter is here. Albie Chill. All right, let's get into it. Everybody hit the like button. Likes up. All right, Nessa G, Queen of Mona Huey, we the people. All right, y'all know I love me some royals. I see you, Michael. Okay, so before we get into it, let's have a brief word from my sponsor at 12 Tribes. But also, let me just say, I checked my post office box yesterday. And I want to thank those of you who sent me gifts and sent me other contributions, okay, for my birthday and for other things. All right, I really appreciate you. And also for those of you who sent me cash apps after my birthday, okay, for belated birthday wishes. Now, that all being said, I forgot to tell you all that a couple of days ago. Now, with that all being said, let's get ready to get into it, okay? Here we go. Likes up. And don't forget to double check and make sure you're still subscribed to the Queen's channel, especially if you have not been receiving your notifications.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
All right. So don't forget you can purchase 12 Tribes Hair Oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Crafts. You can also find it at Walmart.com. And she sells beard oil. Okay, so let's get into it. Because here's the thing. Trump is sitting up here lying through his teeth. Okay, I want y'all to pay attention. The U.S. is running out of munitions. Yeah, the U.S. is running out of munitions. Okay, so let's go to this post by Reuters. All right, let's go to this post by Reuters. And here's what it says. Companies including Lockheed Martin, L&T, okay, and Raytheon, parent, RTX, so on and so forth, along with other key suppliers, have been invited to attend the meeting. Okay, the people said, speaking on condition of anonymity because the discussions are, hold on, I'm sorry, I started in the middle. Let me go back. Okay, now the Trump administration plans to meet with executives from the biggest U.S. defense contractors at the White House on Friday to discuss accelerating weapons production. And why do y'all think this is? Now, as the Pentagon works to replenish supplies after strikes on Iran and several other recent military efforts, 5 people familiar with the plan told at Michael Stone companies including Lockheed Martin and Raytheon, parent RTX, and so on and so forth, along with other key suppliers, have been invited to attend the meeting. Okay, speaking on the condition of anonymity because the discussions are private. Now, the meeting underscores the urgency felt in Washington to shore up weapons stocks after the Iran operation drew heavily on munitions. Since Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022 and Israel began military operations in Gaza, the U.S. has drawn down billions of dollars worth of weapons stockpiles, including artillery systems, okay, ammunition and anti-tank missiles. Now, the conflict in Iran has consumed longer-range missiles than those furnished to Kyiv. Okay, at least one of the people said the gathering was expected to center on pressing weapons makers to move faster to boost output. And not to mention, it was reported days ago even that they were running out. That they're running out. And here's what Trump had to say. Trump claims America can fight forever, but munitions are limited. Okay, please make it make sense. President Trump's claim that America has a virtually unlimited munition stockpile and could fight a war forever could soon be tested as counterattacks target military bases and U.S. embassies across the Middle East in what has become a rapidly widening conflict. Now, why is this important? Well, reporting suggests that the U.S. stockpile and that of key allies, such as Israel and Gulf nations, are dwindling faster than production can replace them. Okay, the weapons, that is. Right now, the problem is particularly notable given that other countries are considering whether to jump in the war. So the United States munition stockpiles have at the medium and upper medium grade never been higher or better. This is what the president wrote on Truth Social Monday night. Now, at the highest end, we have a good supply, but are not where we want to be. Much additional high-grade weaponry is stored for us in outlying countries. This is what Trump said. So it was not immediately clear what the president meant by medium and upper medium grade munitions. He doesn't even know what he means. He's just saying stuff at this point. Okay, he's just trying to make it all make sense, but he can't. Okay, he absolutely cannot. So the Pentagon referred Axios to a post that says the U.S. has everything it needs to execute any mission at any time and place of the president's choosing and on any timeline. All right. And so, but Trump has clearly downplayed this whole thing. Now, Iran's ability to keep the pace of missiles going, okay, they say Trump has downplayed this as well, saying Tuesday that Iran is running out of launchers, but will continue firing for a while. So even before the strikes, the Pentagon made procuring more munitions a key spending priority per the Forecast International's Defense and Security Monitor. Now, the 2025 reconciliation bill included roughly $25 billion to buy munitions and increase production. New deals with defense contractors Lockheed Martin and RTX to boost missile production are also in place, including making sure that the U.S. receives over 1,000 long-range Tomahawk missiles a year. So Iran is flooding its neighbors with missiles, drones, and decoys that demand reactions from Western air defenses, some of which are worth millions of dollars a pop and take months to replenish. Okay, and outgunned Tehran knows this and is playing an existential numbers game. Okay, y'all hear this? Y'all hear this? How do you go to war without enough munitions? Okay, Songwriter Sunny said no notification came up. Make sure you're still subscribed to the channel, beloved. You know how it goes out here in the YouTube streets. Now let's go to this Pentagon briefing from this morning. This is from about 4 hours ago.
Control of Iran's airspace and waterways without boots on the ground. We control their fate. But when a few drones get through or tragic things happen, it's front page news. I get it. The press only wants to make the president look bad, but try for once to report the reality. The terms of this war will be set by us at every step. As I said Monday, the mission is laser focused. Obliterate Iran's missiles and drones and facilities that produce them, annihilate its navy and critical security infrastructure, and sever their pathway to nuclear weapons. Iran will never possess a nuclear bomb, not on our watch, not ever. And this is why President Trump's moral clarity on Iran today is so vital. Unlike the past, where vague red lines and endless negotiations let Iran fund terror and inch ever so slightly toward a bomb, this president sees the threat plainly and acts decisively. No more half measures, especially when Iran is at its weakest. No more letting Tehran play for time while our people pay the price. His leadership ensures that we finish what we start and that we protect our warfighters by crushing the enemy before they can strike again. Our offensive operations, refined through months of relentless preparation, are unstoppable. And our defensive efforts are unprecedented. We have from the start put the protection of our troops ahead of everything else. Before we very publicly built up offensive combat power, we quietly ensured that our defensive posture and power was in place. And as we built up offensive combat power, we moved the vast majority of American troops, over 90% of Americans that were on our bases, what we say off the X, out of the range of Iranian fire. Our defensive shield is equally formidable, the most sophisticated air and missile defense network ever fielded. Thousands of Iranian missiles and drones have been intercepted and vaporized. Tens of thousands of American and allied lives protected. We have pushed every counter-UAS system possible forward, sparing no expense or capability. And like I said, this does not mean we can stop everything, but we ensured that the maximum possible defense and maximum possible force protection was set up before we went on offense. In closing, as President Trump told German Chancellor Merz yesterday, Iran negotiated in bad faith, stalling, scheming, and preparing to strike. And we acted decisively to defend our people, our interests, and our allies. President Trump took bold action, putting America first, the kind of bold action that the American people elected him to execute. To our steadfast partner, Israel, your mission is being executed with unmatched skill and iron determination. Fighting shoulder to shoulder with such a capable ally is a true force multiplier and a breath of fresh air. We salute your courage and your contribution. 4 days in, we have only just begun to fight. America fights to win, and in Operation Epic Fury, we are. May God's providence cover and protect our troops always. And with that, I turn it over to the chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm here today to provide the American people and those of you in this room an update on Operation Epic Fury. First, it's with profound sadness and gratitude that I share the names of 4 of our 6 fallen heroes, all from the 103rd Sustainment Command, U.S. Army Reserves out of Des Moines, Iowa. Captain Cody Kirk, Sergeant First Class Noah Tegens, Sergeant First Class Nicole Amore, and Sergeant Declan Cody. To the families of our fallen, we grieve with you today, and we look forward to welcoming your family members home at Dover in the coming days. Out of respect for the other families, we'll withhold the release of their names until next of kin notification is complete. And either myself or Admiral Cooper will release those names as soon as we can ensure that all of those families have been properly notified. To our Gold Star families, to our wounded warriors and their loved ones, we will never forget your sacrifice. Our nation stands with you, and we are eternally grateful for your courage, your resiliency, your devotion to this mission and to our nation. As the Secretary said, we're 4 days in, 103 hours into this campaign. The operation was again launched with clear military objectives designed to dismantle Iran's ability to project power outside of its borders, both today and in the future. First, we are targeting and eliminating Iran's ballistic missile systems to prevent them from threatening the U.S. Forces, partners, and interests in the region. Second, we are destroying the Iranian Navy, degrading its capacity, capability, and ability to conduct operations, not just in the Central Command AOR, but as the Secretary showed in the video, around the world. Third, we're ensuring Iran cannot rapidly rebuild or reconstitute its combat capability or combat power, and those phases will begin as the campaign continues. As of this morning, U.S. Central Command is making steady progress. Iran's theater ballistic missile shots fired are down 86% from the first day of fighting, with a 23% decrease just in the last 24 hours. And their one-way attack drone shots are down 73% from the opening days. This progress has allowed CENTCOM to establish localized air superiority across the southern flank of the Iranian coast and penetrate their defenses with overwhelming precision and firepower. We will now begin to expand inland, striking progressively deeper into Iranian territory and creating additional freedom of maneuver for U.S. forces. Let me explain a little bit about how we're thinking about staying ahead of the enemy. First, over the past several weeks, Admiral Cooper and the CENTCOM team have refined their operational approach to the region. Their planners identified key centers of gravity that would allow Iran to project power outside of its borders. They thought about how to isolate critical vulnerabilities and determined where, with precision, the greatest strategic effect could be achieved. As a result of this, CENTCOM is now shifting in day 4 already from large deliberate strike packages using standoff munitions at range outside an enemy's ability to shoot at us, now into stand-in precision strikes overhead Iran. As the Secretary said, this is a point of munitions transition from standoff munitions to stand-in munitions like joint direct attack munitions, which are GPS-aided free-fall weapons, and other things like Hellfires, etc. This will allow the joint force to deliver significantly increased precision effects on the target. The throttle is coming up, as the Secretary said, as opposed to ramping down. This will allow us to maintain consistent pressure on the adversary over the coming days, disrupt their launch timelines, and impose cost every day around the clock. I know there have been a lot of questions about munitions. We have sufficient precision munitions for the task at hand, both on the offense and defense. But I want to tell you, teammates, as a matter of practice, I don't want to be talking about quantities. And
Yeah, he doesn't want to talk about quantities because they don't have enough munitions. Okay, they're lying through their teeth, people. Please pay attention. Okay, Jay Gray said, man, stop all that lying. This thing is just getting warmed up. Exactly. Okay, exactly. Now, with that all being said, let's continue. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Now, before I get into the rest of the war updates, let's talk about Burkina Faso really quick. Okay, but because Burkina Faso has accepted Trump's controversial funding package, which was rejected by Zimbabwe and Zambia. Now people are curious, and I'm going to tell you more about that. So let's go to this report. Let's go to this report.
Funding deal. This development has sparked curiosity, not just because of widespread concern about such deals, but also given that Burkina Faso, under President Ibrahim Traore, has been one of the African countries turning their backs on Western powers in recent years. Under the deal, the US will provide 147 million US dollars, while Burkina Faso will contribute 107 million US dollars over the next 5 years. Such US funding under Trump's America First global health strategy is reportedly linked to granting Washington access to mineral resources and harvesting personal health data of Africans. It's not immediately clear whether those controversial elements are included in the US-Burkina Faso agreement. However, the US Department of State said the deal is expected to help improve and digitize data reporting and tackle infectious diseases before they spread regionally or reach the United States. Burkina Faso has not yet publicly commented on the deal. Some analysts say the agreement could be a result of recent diplomatic overtures by the Trump administration engaging with countries in the Sahel, in sharp contrast to the approach of the previous US administration. Burkina Faso is one of Africa's top gold producers, in addition to other mineral resources like copper, diamond, and bauxite. Since coming to power in 2022, Traore has vowed to protect his country's resources from unfair exploitation by foreign powers. Meanwhile, the Democratic Republic of Congo, another resource-rich country, has also signed the Trump health deal worth 1.2 billion US dollars. According to the US State Department, 18 African countries have accepted the Trump America First packages worth a total of 18 billion US dollars. The countries are Botswana, Burkina Faso, Burundi, Cameroon, Cote d'Ivoire, Eswatini, Ethiopia, Kenya, Lesotho, Liberia, Madagascar, Malawi, Mozambique, Nigeria, Rwanda, Sierra Leone, DRC, and Uganda. However, Zambia and Zimbabwe have turned down the Trump packages, reportedly due to concerns over sharing sensitive health data and access to mineral resources. The Director General of the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Jean Kaseya, has expressed huge concerns over pathogen sharing as part of the deals. The Trump administration, pursuing a transactional foreign policy, has repeatedly said that US foreign funding should not be treated as a charity and that Washington's interest must be top priority.
Okay, so that aroused some people's suspicions or curiosity, and I can see why. So let's talk about it. So they signed this 5-year health cooperation agreement with the Trump administration on February the 25th of 2026. Now, the agreement, often referred to as a memorandum of understanding or an MOU, is typically a non-binding framework that outlines terms for future cooperation. Okay, so the deal is valued at approximately $254 million over a period of 5 years. The United States is going to provide $147 million, like she said, and Burkina Faso contributes $107 million. Now, but here's the difference in what they offered the other countries. So with this, basically, this is non-binding. Okay, they can pull out at any time if they want to. Okay, that's what that is. So that's likely why they went ahead and signed it. So it's a non-binding agreement. Okay, and critics highlight that the deal requires significant sovereignty-related commitments, such as digitizing and sharing national health data with the United States. Okay, and some people kind of had a problem with that. They say the MOUs under the American First Global Health Strategy typically allow the U.S. to reduce or cease funding if the partner country fails to meet its domestic spending benchmarks. All right, so it's not like it's just locked in. They can pull out at any time. Now, also, I wanted to tell you all that I find it interesting that it has been reported that Erica Kirk, Charlie Kirk's widow, well, they said that she's trying to paint this narrative that Charlie Kirk would have been for the war with Iran. Now, why? Does that even matter? Well, because Charlie Kirk had a lot of he had like a huge fan base. Okay, so they're likely trying to get those people who are MAGA, clearly trying to get those people on board, because some of MAGA has been revolting. Okay, so now with that all being said, let's go to this video that they posted on TPUSA. This is a video where Charlie Kirk was all for a war with Iran, but what they didn't talk about was what he said before he died. So this is just about them pushing the narrative. Now, let me just say for the record, I don't give a damn about Charlie Kirk. I thought he was a racist. Okay, at the end of the day, I've said it many times, but the significance of me reporting on this, like I said, is because they're trying to paint a narrative, okay, for Trump's base. All right? And for the rest of us who may be foolish enough to fall for it. Okay, if you liked Charlie Kirk, which it seems like many people who look like Trump absolutely did, and even some people who look like me. Okay, so now with that all been said, I'm going to put an overlay on this. This is the video that they posted recently.
How much do you actually know about Iran? Persia was a great power, and then Iran took a turn for the worst. Interestingly enough, there was the Shah of Iran, and then the Shah was displaced by Mossadegh. Mossadegh was democratically elected. Now, to be very fair, the United States and Britain got rid of Mossadegh, and then we reinstalled the Shah. Bad decision, which then led to the Iranian Revolution, where radical Islam took over Iran. Look at some of these pictures of what Iran used to be. It was wealthy, it was proud, it was strong. The Persians are wonderful people. Some of my closest friends are Persians, and I love the Persian people. And we should have a heart for the Persian people to try and have a better future. Regime change is very difficult to talk about. I actually don't like talking about regime change. It's very complicated, but understand that there can be brighter days ahead for the Iranian people. And just look at some of these pictures of how beautiful Iran used to be, how beautiful Tehran used to be. And it's very easy to kind of sit in your Western armchair and be like, oh, Israel's terrible. Well, you were able to enjoy free speech rights and a lot of rights here in the West that Iran used to have. And if you are serious about actually protecting human rights, you should want to make Iran Western again.
Okay, that's what he previously said. Now let's go to this next clip. Hold on, beloveds. And by the way, Candace Owens has come out and said, Candace Owens has come out and said, here it is right here, that Bibi Netanyahu is the one who did 9/11, who ordered 9/11. Okay, I want y'all to pay attention. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. Now, as you can see right here, let me remove this overlay. Right here, this woman by the name of Jenny Robinson, okay, who's the one posting this information, she said Erica Kirk and TPUSA are trying to quite literally delete Charlie Kirk's legacy. Okay, so these are videos and stuff that she's going through. She said that they have deleted much of his things where he was speaking against those people. And y'all know what people I'm talking about. Okay, so she says they have deleted that. Now, hold on. Let's go to her page because she posted what Charlie Kirk said after he was offered that war. Likes up, everyone. Please like and share. Thank you in advance. Okay, let me see. Is this it? Okay, yeah. So let me put an overlay on this. This is supposedly 2 days before he was assassinated.
Just last question on this, Ben. I know this might be a tougher question, but Bibi said, quote, I didn't like he said this, I'll be honest. You can't be MAGA if you're anti-Israel. I don't like it for a couple of reasons. How did you analyze that statement?
And it is totally fine to say to people who wish to destroy our civilization, no, your values suck and they don't belong here.
Where does all this resentment come from?
Okay, so now there was another video that I was looking for where Charlie Kirk basically said that it was disgusting to be having this, to have a war with them. And basically felt like, you know, America didn't need to do that. But it's interesting that that's not what they posted. They posted a video from previous times. And that's, like I said, because they're all trying to push this narrative. By the way, these are the 4 soldiers who died. Okay, I'm going to have to find that video footage. I don't see it on here. I don't want to keep scrolling all day. Okay, so in the meantime, let's go to the next order of business. But yeah, so that's the false narrative that they're trying to put out there, trying to get people on board because clearly Trump's people, some of them anyway, have started speaking out. Some of these MAGA people are revolting. Okay, let's get into it. Lights up, everyone, please like and share. Okay, I'm going to share my screen.
The United States is war. This war is not being waged on behalf of American national security objectives to make the United States safer or richer.
My own feeling is no one should have to die for a foreign country. Our government's job is not to look out for Iran or for Israel. It's to look out for us.
I don't like the mullahs, but this is supposed to be America first. We're not supposed to be running around doing this anymore.
Now we turn to the policy in the Middle East directly. The president says he may be open to supporting militia groups in Iran taking up arms to dislodge the regime, which is both a tacit acknowledgement that so far the killing of Khomeini has not changed how Iran runs yet. The Wall Street Journal reporting on that, which also raises questions about what our plans are. Meanwhile, an Iranian drone hit the American consulate in Dubai. There you can see the impact, the smoke and fire rising. After the attack, U.S. officials did say they were able to account for all personnel. The Pentagon also releasing video of U.S. airstrikes on Iran's mobile missile launchers. All this amid growing scrutiny on what Trump's rationale for war is and if it keeps changing depending on the day or who's talking. Trump has said that he felt Iran would launch attacks soon. That's part of why he moved first, which is kind of a preemptive attack argument. U.S. intelligence assessments have indicated there was not a looming or preemptive strike expected from Iran, at least according to what we knew. That's the latest in several justifications.
Our objective is to defend the American people and would soon have had missiles capable of reaching our beautiful America. Our country itself would be under threat, and it was very nearly under threat.
The United States is conducting an operation to eliminate the threat of Iran's short-range ballistic missiles.
He wanted to make sure that Iran could never have a nuclear weapon.
We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action, the threat posed by their Navy. We hope that the Iranian people can overthrow this government.
This is not a so-called regime change war, but the regime sure did change.
If we didn't do it, they were going to attack first. I felt strongly about that.
Back with us now is Ambassador Dennis Ross, a longtime Middle East expert. He served as a peace negotiator and a diplomat.
Before I let him speak, let me just tell you how Trump is such a damn liar. He said they were going to attack first, okay? He felt they were going to attack first. First of all, they were willing to come to an agreement, okay? That's what they were willing to do. And at the end of the day, Trump decided to do all of this, and we all know why. Okay, he did it for monetary purposes, in my opinion. He also did it because of Bibi Netanyahu. Absolutely, okay? That's what this is all about. All right? And so with that all being said, let's continue.
Across several administrations, working in the Obama administration. There you can see him in the Oval Office with the president and the Secretary of State at the time. We also want to remind everyone, when you think about how long this history runs, on the left, you see Bibi Netanyahu, who is back again, the leader of Israel. And you have him there with Yasser Arafat and Ambassador Ross all the way back in 1997. We should mention his latest book on the region, Statecraft 2.0, What America Needs to Learn in a Multipolar World, is available now. Welcome back. You remember that photo, that moment?
Yeah, I've just changed a little bit, not much.
Yeah, well, that's the passage of time is something we all have in common, even across the great barrier that separated those two men and their peoples. But I show that because you've lived through so much of this. The last time you were here, we discussed some of what might actually change on the sort of chessboard. And I'm curious how that compares with the way the administration is talking about it, which each day floats different reasons for what we're doing.
I think one of the hardest things to come to grips with is what you're raising. What is the objective here? You know, good statecraft is always characterized by you marry your objectives and means. Now, you can't really marry means to objectives unless the objectives themselves are clear. So thinking through the objectives is really important. We keep getting a different explanation for what the objective is. We just rehearsed, as I was watching, all these different accounts. Now, it may be that President Trump deliberately wants to keep the definition of objectives quite fluid because it frees him up to basically decide on his own at a certain point, okay, I will define the objective after the war is over and I can claim that we succeeded. That's very possible. It may account for why no one seems to be able to give you one clear objective, and the president himself seems to emphasize different points at different times.
And I'll jump in to say that the question there then becomes, is that for substance, negotiators like a certain amount of flexibility and you actually get a good outcome, or is it for PR, which is something that this former reality show host, now president, is versed in? Because when Vietnam didn't go the way successive administrations wanted, there was the old saying, declare victory and leave, which was a face-saving spin, but didn't mean that it was worth the blood or treasure or that we had a good outcome.
Look, it's very possible that the president could be in a position quite soon to claim the following. The president said that if they killed a lot of their citizens, they would pay a price. In this case, Ahmadiyyah paid the price. And I also said they wouldn't be in a position where they could threaten any of their neighbors. And I put them in a position where they can't threaten any of their neighbors. He could actually adopt a unilateral position along those lines and say, if they continue to fire, then they'll pay a much bigger price, but we've achieved our objective. Now, the irony is it would be easier to make that case if that had been the objective from the beginning. If you are waiting to explain your objective until after it's over, because you think that allows you to present this in the best possible light, it unfortunately puts you in a position where the expectations you've generated don't necessarily match what you're now saying. That's why I say you really want to be quite clear on the objectives you have in mind, not only for the reasons, Ari, that you're saying. You want to sell it to the American public. If you're never explaining what the objective is, you're raising doubts among the American public. Well, what is this about? What is the purpose here? Why are we doing it? It actually makes it harder to sustain domestic political support for what you're doing.
Okay, I'm going to stop right there. Absolutely, it makes it hard to sustain domestic support for what you're doing because you don't have a good excuse, a valid reason. And also, at the end of the day, I'm sure that everybody knows Trump's trying to sidetrack everyone from the Epstein files. All around the world, people know that's what Trump's doing. Other countries have come out and said it. They said Trump's trying to evade the Epstein files, those talks and conversations. Okay, so this is Epstein's war. Okay, this is the Epstein war. Please pay attention. Now, our God says, much love, Queen. You always keep us sharp. Also, when you can you repost the Gorilla Glue Girl live stream you did some time ago where I had you laughing for about 5 minutes straight about who's stiff what? Yes, beloved. Listen, thank you for your kind words. And I'll try to find that video and clip it. Okay. And I'll try to find that and clip it as a short. All right. Thank you for your contribution to the channel. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Okay. Now, Kayla Kalulina, I hope I said that right, says, thanks for all you do, Queen. I'm new and learning so much. I drove by the Golden Arches the other day. Billions served has a whole new meaning now. Absolutely, beloved. Absolutely. Okay, I absolutely agree. Thank you for your kind words. I appreciate you, and thank you for your contribution to the channel. Peace, love, and blessings. Now, let me just say this before I move on to the next clip. Here's the thing I want you all to pay attention to. Iran is attacking the naval bases, okay? And with the, I'm sorry, they're attacking Iran's naval bases, the U.S. They're attacking Iran's naval bases. And why are they doing this? Well, and Trump has come out and said, and I believe he may be lying because he lies so much. He's come out and said that all their naval bases are gone. They're all destroyed, right? Now, the reason they were attacking the naval bases is because those are the ones that protect the Strait of Hormuz. Now, if you remember the other day, I told you all that the Strait of Hormuz is the key shipping lane. Okay, for oil and things. And specifically, they send oil to China. Okay, but here's the thing. China knew that this was going to happen, apparently, because they have been stockpiling oil. Please pay attention. They have been stockpiling oil since January when the U.S. invaded Venezuela and snatched up Maduro. Because you see, Venezuela was the largest oil supply. They have the largest oil supply, which, of course, the U.S. has now taken over. But they supplied the oil specifically to China, Russia, and China, Russia, and Cuba. Okay, and now remember, Cuba has not been getting any oil. Trump has told the other people, the other countries, that he's going to hit them with tariffs and all of this if they dare to give oil to Cuba. Okay, so Cuba's having a hard time. It's like these people are probably starving at this point. So, but here's the thing. Now, Trump has been propping up Saudi Arabia. And the funny thing is, Saudi Arabia is currently trying to backfill China's oil supply. Okay, please pay attention, because they're also the biggest beneficiary in the U.S. invading Venezuela. Saudi Arabia is. They're the biggest beneficiary to that. Okay. Now, with that all being said, why is Trump propping them up? And he's being a whole hypocrite in doing so. But why is he propping them up? Okay, that's because of the monetary gain that he has. Okay, I want you all to pay attention. The Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia came to the White House. Okay, we also know that Trump is all about money. He made a statement saying that one of the things he regretted about his first presidency was all the money that he left on the table. So clearly, he's going to steal as much money as he can steal this time around. Okay, please pay attention. Out of the taxpayers' pockets, no less. Okay, and from wherever else he can steal. That's my opinion. But he wants to talk about fraud. Okay, so with that all being said, here's the thing. Okay, why is he propping up Saudi Arabia? Well, for $1 billion in 2 Trump Towers and Jeddah and Riyadh. Okay, they call it luxury living. All right, and then $2 billion from Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund that was given to Jared Kushner's private equity fund, which I told you all about that before. And then $2 billion into Trump's stablecoin, another $5.5 billion for Trump's golf course developed by a Saudi developer. Okay, all we have to do is follow the money. Okay, because we already know that Trump is all about those dollars. Okay, and also the fact that he's, I really feel like he's doing most of this because of Israel. All right. We all know that by now. Who's really running things? Okay. That's what I would like to know. Who's really running things? Now, with that all being said, as I told you, they have this narrative they're trying to paint as if Charlie Kirk was all for this war. Okay. I have found the clip where Charlie Kirk was in fact speaking against it. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen. Let me put an overlay on this.
We are just going to take out the Ayatollah. Oh, really? What comes next? What comes after regime change? might be, oh, well, we need a small number of U.S. troops to support the new regime. We have seen this play before. Regime change, you have no idea how this is going to work out. You have no idea. We are just going to take out.
Okay, so Charlie Kirk absolutely was not for this war as they're trying to paint the narrative. And like I said, in another clip, he actually said that it was disgusting, okay, and that it was insane. Like it made no sense. All right, so, you know, they're out here telling all these lies. And here's the thing, Trump really didn't have a solid plan, if you ask me. Okay, he didn't have a plan. He doesn't know what he's going to do next. And then he's sitting here lying about them having a forever war, that they could go on forever, like they just have so much munitions. Absolutely lies and BS. Okay, now let's go to this report by MSN or MS Now, where they talk about a lack of planning and Democratic senators on Trump's messaging on Iran. Okay, so let's get into it.
Now, Democratic Senator Chris Coons of Delaware, a member of the Judiciary and Foreign Relations Committee. I want to say, Senator, that we heard a lot from the president in the Oval Office. He was with the German chancellor, but I want to play particularly what he said about America's attacks on Iran. This was just last hour. Take a listen.
They have no Navy. It's been knocked out. They have no Air Force. It's been knocked out. They have no air detection. That's been knocked out. Their radar has been knocked out. And just about everything's been knocked out. So we'll see how we do, but we're doing very well.
He also said, Senator, we have them very much beaten militarily. I know you're going to a briefing in just a couple of hours. What are your questions?
My core question is, what is the goal of this war? President Trump took us to war in Iran without clearly conveying to the American people or to Congress that represents them, what's the goal, what's the duration, what are the aims, what are the means. When we heard in the last 24 hours, Secretary Hegseth say he would not rule out sending boots on the ground, and when President Trump has variously said this could last a few days, a few weeks, or as long as it takes, and when President Trump has publicly identified the goals of this war as everything from eliminating the nuclear enrichment program that he had already allegedly obliterated, or turning over the regime, or sinking their Navy, we don't have clarity about why he's taken us to war, and this is not how democracies should go to war.
Let's talk about the future, because one of the things that Chancellor Merz said was that he was going to be talking to the president about the day after. What is the day after? What does that look like?
There are clearly no plans by this administration. President Trump recently said, oh, we had 3 people in mind to take over, but we killed them all in the first day. He has variously urged average Iranian citizens to take their lives in their hands and go into the streets and try to overthrow the repressive IRGC and the ongoing rule of the mullahs and the imams in Tehran, or has suggested he would cut some deal, as he did in Venezuela, with a senior member of this repressive regime. The biggest thing I think that is likely to come out of this is chaos. A repressive, well-armed machine, the Iranian regime, that has long supported terrorism and proxies in the region, that has the blood of many on its hands, is not likely to be overthrown by a handful of disorganized and unarmed protesters. If only the United States government had had a large group of seasoned and experienced people who had relevant background in helping to support civil society and resistance movements. Oh, wait, Chris, we did. It was USAID. They helped support civil society. They helped train and equip young leaders who could challenge an authoritarian regime. They did it in many countries around the world. But unfortunately, in the chaos of DOGE last year, many of those programs were either canceled, delayed, furloughed, or reduced. So the Iranian people are not hearing broadcasts in their language, principally Farsi, every day from Voice of America. We did not have a clear plan for how to work with the Iranian diaspora and how to work with groups within Iran who might be willing or ready to take on the Iranian regime. The lack of planning here is just stunning.
Yeah, the lack of planning is absolutely stunning. Okay, please pay attention. But here's the thing. About an hour ago, it just came out that Iran is not interested in negotiating with Trump. Okay, and they say they're going to punish the United States. All right. After the U.S. and Israel launched attacks on Iran, killing Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei and many senior figures in the government, Iran's military has responded with strikes of its own, and they don't intend to back down. Okay, they don't intend to back down, so let's get into it. And then, I find it interesting that just the other day, Pete Hegseth said, they were trying to assassinate Trump. That's what he said about Iran. They were trying to assassinate Trump. Or are they planning an assassination on him and all of this? Well, first of all, didn't Trump have General Soleimani taken out? Didn't he do that? Yeah, he did. Okay, please. So what do you expect?
The Iranian military strategy is now playing out?
It's working quite well. Iran is hammering the Israeli regime in retaliation for its atrocities and its unprovoked war, and it's hammering U.S. positions across the Persian Gulf region for its atrocities and the unprovoked war. And there's been no let-up in Iranian responses, and that is because Iranian missile and drone bases are all deep underground and inaccessible to the United States and the Israeli regime.
Y'all hear that? Underground and inaccessible to the United States and Israel's regime. Trump, you're not winning this war, honey. It's going down. I want you all to pay attention. Okay, I want you all to pay attention. This is exactly what the United States gets. Okay, I feel sorry for the soldiers who are going to lose their lives. And at the end of the day, if y'all think it's just 4 that have lost their lives, I assure you it's likely more than that. Trump's lying. Okay, let's continue. And also, they're whipping Israel's behind too, just so you know. Let's continue.
And that's why they take revenge on ordinary Iranians. They've been bombing Tehran and other cities, destroying homes, destroying hospitals, destroying schools, slaughtering children. In one instance, they murdered 165 girls, young girls, at an elementary school.
This is what the United States is doing. Are they supposed to be proud of this? Are they supposed to be bragging? Okay, Trump's acting like they're putting in work. You murdered children, 165 little girls who were at school. How do you think that looks to the rest of the world? Okay, and they knew that was a school. It wasn't an accident. Okay, let's get into it.
They've been buried today. So since they cannot defeat the Iranian military, they take their revenge on ordinary Iranians.
It's clearly causing chaos in the Gulf states, particularly with the attacks on energy facilities. Is that part of the Iranian strategy to wage economic war as well?
No, Iran has not taken any responsibility for the strikes on the energy facilities, for example, in Saudi Arabia. That could be something carried out by the Israeli regime.
That's likely who did it. Okay, that's what Iran said yesterday on their news media. I told you all, they said they're not taking credit for that. They said Israel did, and I absolutely think they did. And also, we should all be paying attention because there's going to be a false flag here in the United States soon. And when it does, they're going to tell you it's Iran, like I told you all. But please look the other way. Okay, look the other way because we know who's good at doing false flags, don't we?
But the Iranians have told tankers that they are not allowed to leave the Strait of Hormuz. And when these Arab regimes in the Persian Gulf, when they give the United States military bases to use against Iran, then there are consequences. They cannot have their cake and eat it too. They cannot participate in aggression against Iran alongside this Epstein coalition and then sit back and say we're neutral.
Right, but you're not denying the other attacks, are you, in other Gulf countries which do affect energy supplies, and the oil price has gone up significantly. So I mean that does seem to be part of the Iranian military strategy, isn't it? I mean, to try and bring them into the war and regionalize it.
No, Iran has been targeting U.S. assets in the Persian Gulf. And those assets could be anything that's linked to the United States. The United States is bombing hospitals. The United States is bombing schools. The United States is bombing Iranian national radio and television alongside the Israeli regime. So US assets in the Persian Gulf, they too will be attacked. But assets that belong to the states in the Persian Gulf region, they have not been touched by the Iranians. However, if they host US forces, because many of the soldiers have left their bases and been taken to hotels, the Iranians will target them. So at the end of the day, if they want this problem to end, they have to expel soldiers of the Epstein regime.
Now, we understand that the assembly.
Did y'all hear it? Expel soldiers of the Epstein regime. Did y'all hear what he said? Did y'all hear that? The world thinks we're a joke. Everybody knows this is all about Epstein files. Okay, please pay attention. Y'all heard that man said. He said the Epstein regime. I did not know he was going to say that because I literally just found this report. Okay, came out an hour
of
ago.
experts
All nefarious.
is trying to appoint a new supreme leader. Could a new leader, do you think, negotiate with Trump and agree to his terms?
No, Iran is not interested in negotiating with Trump or the US regime. Iran is going to punish the United States, and we are in the process of doing it. This regime in Washington has tried to cross a bridge that's a bridge too far, and they're messing with the wrong country. We're not Venezuela, we're not Iraq, we're not Libya, we're not Afghanistan, and we're not Syria. This is the Islamic Republic of Iran, and we will make sure that the United States regrets the aggression against the Iranian people and the slaughter of children and the slaughter of innocent civilians and the murder of the leader. These are crimes against humanity, and the United States and its allies have imposed the law of the jungle upon the world, and they will come to regret it.
Oh, baby. Do y'all hear it? Do y'all hear it? Oh, Trump, I think you bit off more than you can chew, boo-boo. Y'all hear that? These people are not playing games, honey. Okay, these people are not playing games. This is scary. Do you hear what they are saying? They are about to come down on the U.S. with a furious vengeance. I assure you, this is only the beginning, okay? Trump can sit there and tell all the lies he wants. He can sit there and tell all the lies he wants and act like America can go on forever. They're running out of munitions and they're getting their asses whipped. And so is Israel. Okay? Jerusalem is less protected. I want y'all to pay attention. Honey, they effed around and found out. That's what this is. This is a moment where the U.S. has effed around and found out. Sadly for us. Okay? Sadly for us. At the end of the day, this is all scary. But let's continue. Because y'all know the people that voted for Trump, what do they have to say about all this now?
But Iran is not a military superpower either, and we're seeing the vast majority of drones and missiles being shot down by air defenses. I mean, you know, surely Iran cannot win a military war and therefore has to go for some other kind of strategy in coming to a settlement.
Iran will defeat the United States. Time will tell. And our drones that are being fired are very old drones. Our missiles that are being fired are very old missiles. They're very inexpensive. And Americans are using up very expensive air defense systems. The Iranians know exactly what they're doing. We haven't even begun using our latest technology, and most of Iran's underground bases have not even been used yet. They have not even been opened up for operation. The Iranians have been planning for this day ever since the invasion of Iraq. They knew that at some point, the Epstein regime will go after Iranians.
Didn't I tell you all this yesterday? Didn't I tell y'all this yesterday? Remember the TikTok that I did and I told you all, I said Iran has had 20 years plus to prepare for this. Once in the chat if you all remember that. Once in the chat if you all remember that. Okay, I literally just told y'all this. I said they done had 20 years. I said, I told you all. Let me just pull that darn TikTok up again for those of you who missed it. Okay? Let me just pull it right back up because I already told y'all. I already predicted it. Please pay attention. Okay? Please pay attention. This is absolutely egregious, honey. Ugh, we down bad, y'all. Keep listening to him till I put up that TikTok.
And therefore, they've been preparing themselves for many years. We are fighting for our homeland and our sovereignty and our independence. And our crime is that we oppose the genocide that the British regime and the American regime and Western regimes have been supporting. And we are on the right side of history, and the United States is the aggressor, and we will punish the aggressor and make it regret its crimes against humanity.
It's all going bad for the divided snakes, honey. Please pay attention. Okay? Y'all remember that video I did? Let me go right back to it, honey, because I told y'all this. Honey, I knew that they're not nobody to play with, and the U.S. wasn't ready. They don't even have a plan, honey. Make it all make sense. Dr. Ahmadiyyah. Trump has gotten us involved in a war that the United States is absolutely not going to win. Let's get into it. Iran has had major issues with the United States for decades, okay? And at the end of the day, so that means they've had plenty of time to practice. Also, let's not forget about the 12 days war back last June, okay? And with that all being said, you know, that gave them, Iran that is, the opportunity to see how the U.S. and Israel strikes, okay? And then they've had the past 8 months, you know, to prepare for new strikes. Okay, please pay attention. Now, Pete Hegseth is trying to use this fact to paint the narrative that the war had already started and that Trump's just simply here to finish it. Well, you know, if the war had already started, then why would Trump in 2011, 2012, and 2013 have accused President Obama of being the one who would start a war with Iran? He said that Obama would start a war with them to get reelected another time. He said that it was because he was not a good negotiator. Okay. And he also said another time that it was because he was down in the polls. Now, if you ask me, those are the reasons that Trump has started the war with Iran. Also at the behest of Bibi Netanyahu, in my opinion. And also the fact that, you know, Trump wants us to be distracted from the Epstein files. He's done everything in his power to do so, to keep us distracted, to have other things coming up and arising. Okay. Even at the detriment to the citizens and damaging the global economy. Okay, please pay attention. Not to mention that Iran has been striking the GCC countries and going after their most significant infrastructures. And you know, the next thing they're going to likely do is hit the water supply. And if they do that, well, they'll probably only have about a month before they run out of water. Okay, please pay attention. GCC consists of the 6 Arab countries that border the Persian Gulf. Okay, please pay attention. These are Bahrain, Oman, Qatar, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait. But mind you, these countries supply the United States with crude oil, petroleum products, petrochemicals, basically supplying at least 12% of all U.S. oil imports. Okay, please pay attention. Now, they also export aluminum fertilizers, as well as increasingly strategic AI, technology, and cybersecurity. And also, a few hours ago, it came out from the Iranian state media that basically they're saying Iran did not strike the oil refinery in Saudi Arabia. They're saying that that was Israel, which is crazy because aren't they all supposed to be on the same team? Okay, please pay attention. Because we already know that supposedly Saudi Arabia gave Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law, $2 billion for one of his projects, okay, not too long ago. Okay, please pay attention. And if this is all true, why would Israel have struck Saudi Arabia's oil refinery? Okay, would it be to sow seeds of chaos? I mean, I just have several questions. Please pay attention. And also, what do we stand to gain? The U.S., that is. What do we stand to gain from this war? Okay, think about the GCC and all the things they supply to us. And if they are not able to do so, how do you think that's going to turn out? Okay, please pay attention. That being said, beloveds, we should all be on our knees praying. Well, get that on bended knee, honey, because the time is nigh. Okay, this is the fall of the U.S. I told you all this days ago. Okay, this is the fall of the U.S., honey. The U.S. is going down at the end of the day. And this is all so nefarious. Iran is not going to surrender. Okay, John Hopkins professor says the U.S. and Israel have underestimated Iran. This is a report from an hour ago from Democracy Now! Let's get into it. This is all going down, y'all. Okay, it is looking bad for the United States. At the end of the day, Trump, like I told y'all, Trump got us into a war that we cannot win, period. Okay? I don't think they knew who they were messing with at all.
I'm Amy Goodman. Israel's launched another wave of airstrikes against Iran with loud blasts reported in Tehran this morning as the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran enters a fifth day. The reported death toll in Iran has surpassed 1,000, with the victims including many children. This is a resident of Tehran who was forced to flee to Armenia.
I am from Tehran. There were constant bombings. There are 50 to 60 bombings daily. Very scary. It is unimaginable for the people with children. Food stores are working. The hospitals are working too. So do the fueling stations. Nothing else is working. There's practically nobody in the city of Tehran. Everybody moves in the countryside, those who have cottages over there. Others stay indoors. The city is deserted.
This comes as President Trump said Tuesday the U.S. Navy could soon begin escorting oil tankers through the Strait of Hormuz after a commander in Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps threatened to set ablaze any ship that passes through there. Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz in response to the U.S.-Israeli joint attacks, disrupting global energy markets as the strait is a key waterway for oil and gas. Meanwhile, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said the Trump administration had sunk an Iranian warship in the Indian Ocean, leaving over 100 people missing. Iranian media reported today's funeral ceremony for Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who was assassinated Saturday, has been postponed. His son, Mojtaba Khamenei, has reportedly emerged as the frontrunner to replace his father as Iran's supreme leader, according to the New York Times. Israel has said whoever is chosen as new supreme leader will become, quote, an unequivocal target for elimination, unquote. Israel's already bombed the Assembly of Experts building in Qom, where the decision was expected to be made. For more, we're joined here in New York by Nargis Bajogli. She's an associate professor of anthropology and Middle East studies at Johns Hopkins University School of Advanced International Studies, or SAIS. Professor, welcome back to Democracy Now! Talk about the latest, the significance of what's happening right now, and about the killing, the assassination of the Supreme Leader Khamenei.
So it seems like one of the first strikes that happened on Tehran as soon as this war began was a decapitation strike on the supreme leader, as well as other military and political leaders in the country. It's important to note that the supreme leader did not go into hiding this time like he did in June. He didn't go into bunkers. And so in many ways, and because he was killed in his compound, he wanted to be martyred this time around. He
was dying of cancer already.
He was 86 years old. He was already a very...
So do y'all hear that? The man was already dying, 86 years old. He wanted to be a martyr. Okay? And that's exactly what he's going to be. And here's the thing. Laura Ingraham was reporting that he was hated by 80% of the Iranians. That's not true. Those people were out there grieving in the streets for him. Now, of course, some of them hated him, but I don't think it was 80%. I don't even think it was most of them. Those people are out there grieving in the streets. Okay? Please pay attention. The lies they tell.
Elderly gentleman and sick. But he now has become a symbol of martyrdom and resistance against Israeli and American war. And that has significant meaning within Shia culture. And this is why we're seeing, as you showed earlier on this show, protests happening in Pakistan, as well as in Bahrain, as well as India, and across the Muslim world, because he was not just a leader of a country, but for many Shia Muslims, they also saw him as a spiritual leader.
And can you talk about Mojtaba Khamenei?
Mojtaba Khamenei is his son, and he's long been rumored to be next in line. It is still unclear whether that's actually the case. I know the New York Times is reporting that, but we have to wait and see. If he, what we do know is that because the Iranians have been obviously looking at and studying the way that the Israelis and Americans do war across the region, they know that their MO is decapitation strikes. So in the lead up to this war, the leader in Iran had already ordered across the government to create 3 and 4 lines of succession for every major post. So they know that whoever is announced next might be next in line for assassination.
I mean, Israel announced that.
And Israel knows that as well. Yep.
They said that the next person would be the target
Yes.
of elimination.
Yeah,
I
and this
think
is what
they
they've
put it.
done across the region.
Talk about the doctrine that Israel is citing, what they're going to do next.
So yesterday there were reports on Israeli media that Benjamin Netanyahu has said that he wants to start enacting the Dahiyya doctrine in Tehran. The Dahiyya doctrine is a doctrine that the Israeli military created for striking the southern suburbs of Beirut in the many wars that Israel has waged on Lebanon. And what the Dahiyya doctrine is carpet bombing residential infrastructure and critical infrastructure of densely populated cities in order to eventually turn the population against their ruling establishments. That's sort of the idea of it. But what it means is that they want to carpet bomb really densely populated areas in Tehran.
Let's talk about Iran's strategy. Netanyahu has been saying that Iran is weak, and now the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, is trying to walk back comments that Israel was going to attack Iran no matter what, and the U.S. had to engage in this attack on Iran because otherwise the U.S. would be attacked.
So for over a year now in Washington, you would hear over and over again this Israeli talking point that Iran is very weak, that it's the weakest it's ever been, and that this is the right time to now strike it. And so eventually we got to a point, as in this weekend, in which those strikes happened. And we're only in day 5 of the war now. And I think part of what we're seeing is that the Israelis and the Americans have underestimated Iran's capabilities to strike back hard against the region. Iran is up against the biggest military superpower in world history and the only nuclear armed state in the Middle East. So in military terms, yes, it is not as powerful as those countries. However, it has sort of defined and declared and developed its defense doctrine over all of these decades to be asymmetrical warfare against these kinds of forces in the region. And so what we're going to see play out, Iran is not going to surrender. Iran is going to continue to fight this and to inflict as much damage, not just on Israel, but importantly on the American security architecture in the Gulf region.
At the White House Tuesday, a reporter asked President Trump about the worst case scenario in Iran. This is what he said.
Well, I don't know if there's a worst case. We have them very much beaten militarily from the military standpoint. They're still lobbing some missiles. At some point, they won't even be able to do that because we're hitting all of their carriers. We're hitting all of their missile stock. You know, they built up all these missiles over the last few years. They had a lot of them. They've shot a lot of them, and we're knocking out a lot. I guess the worst case would be we do this, and then somebody takes over who's as bad as the previous person, right? That could happen. We don't want that to happen. It would probably be the worst. You go through this, and then in 5 years, you realize you put somebody in who is no better. So we'd like to see somebody in there that's going to bring it back for the people. And we'll see what happens with the people. You know, they have their chance. And we've said, don't do it yet. If you're going to go out and protest, don't do it yet. It's very dangerous out there. A lot of bombs are being dropped. But I always say that would be about the worst.
Professor Bajoglu, your response.
The way that Iran is responding to all of these strikes right now is it knows that the U.S. has critical low amounts of interceptors in the region, and it's playing the long game. The Americans do not want a long-term war and a war of attrition, and Iran is absorbing the hits and is going for a long-term war of attrition. And this is something that both the Americans, the Israelis, and those in the region have to sort of consider.
And the CIA arming Kurds?
Yeah, the CIA,
Where do the Kurds live? Right through to Iraq?
Right through to Iraq and also on the border with Turkey. If the CIA does this and the Kurds come in and sort of foment an internal uprising, we're going to see this really continue. And then Turkey will probably be giving a lot of intel to the Iranians on this, because this is not in Turkish national interest either. This is the danger of this moment. This has already turned into a regional conflagration, and this could turn into a regional war of a scale that will make the past 25 years of forever wars in the Middle East seem like a walk in the park.
Nargis Bajogli, I want to thank you for being with us, Associate Professor.
Okay, y'all heard that, honey. It is all going down. But hold on. So, like I was telling you all, they want to sit there and try to act like the people, are glad this man is dead. But let's go to the people mourning in the streets. Okay, now they really are. Okay, so you know that they kept telling us that they were chanting death to America. Well, they're really chanting it now. Okay, they're absolutely chanting that now. Death to America, honey. Trump has gotten us all in the worst case scenario, and he's sitting there trying to act like it's all gravy. Do those people look happy about it to you? Okay. Let's go to one more clip. Okay, these people are not happy about this. I don't know why they're sitting up here telling all these lies.
سيد القائد يعني من اغلى الناس هو السيد حسن، يعني نحن ما راينا الا جميلا باستشهاد السيد حسن. مثل ما قالت السيده زينب، نحن تعلمنا من السيده زينب، نحن مدرستنا مدرسه كربلاء، هذا هو اللي تعلمنا منه. فالسيد القائد كان باي يعني احن من باي بعد، كان هو كثير غالي عليه.
Okay, now let's go to this report with Senator Mark Kelly speaking. Okay, he calls out Trump for not having a goal and absolutely no timeline. Trump is so stupid. Why? How do you not prepare and make a plan for war before you started? How dumb is this man? Okay, and let's not forget that yesterday I showed you all how these idiots posted a picture, okay, on Facebook, on the White House's Facebook, where it literally showed the plans. Like the whole map was there. Okay, the whole map was there with their entire operation, showing the targets, showing where our soldiers are stationed. How dumb are they? How incompetent could you be? Well, clearly as incompetent as Trump and his nefarious Epstein regime.
Who knows the taste of war, unfortunately. We, by the way, expect a Pentagon briefing at the top of the next hour with Iran. We'll bring that to you live. Democratic Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona joins us now. He's a member of the Armed Services Committee and served as a captain in the U.S. Navy. Also with us for the discussion, MS Now contributor, our good friend, Mike Barnacle. Senator, I'll start with you on the state of the war this morning. We've heard these shifting rationales for why the joint attacks with Israel were launched over the weekend. It was about stopping their nuclear program once. It was about an imminent threat, the president repeated, to the United States. He said that again yesterday. We've heard that perhaps it was Israel that was going to go after the supreme leader, and therefore we had to take out some defenses because we knew there would be a response. We heard that from Secretary Rubio as well. As you sit at it, someone who served and fought in wars, what is the justification for this war?
Well, I think you got it right. I mean, it's a shifting explanation. I also heard yesterday about the imminent threat, but it was sometime in the future that the imminent threat would exist because of their ballistic missile capability. Hey, they don't seem to know what they're doing or why they did this. I think this is a perfect example of what happens when you have a leader of a country who doesn't take input, doesn't take advice, puts a lot of yes people around him, and makes these, decisions without the right input and without the right data. So I think this is not going well for them. And what that means is it's not going well for our country, and it's not going to go well for service members. I don't want to see a repeat of what happened in 2003 in Iraq when we wind up with a long and bloody conflict.
So, Senator, then there's the matter of what comes next. The idea was that if you take out the supreme leader and some of the leadership that was in that meeting in Iraq, President Trump said in that address immediately after on Saturday, now it's to you, the Iranian people. Take to the streets, go fight the IRGC, take over your country, take back your country from the regime that's been so brutal to you since 1979. What is, in your view, what is the plan for what comes next? Because for the moment, it looks like a version of the same people who were leading Iran are now rising up to lead it again.
Yeah, they don't have a plan. I don't think there was a strategic goal here, and they're flailing around. So no goal, no timeline. What that leads to is just more U.S. service members in a really, really challenging spot. You got to, I think one thing that I don't think has been really mentioned here much is how this president considers and his regard for U.S. service members. I mean, over the last 10 years, he said a lot of things that makes me believe that he doesn't have the kind of respect that typical presidents have of members of the military and the challenges that they face. The Iranian people, they're in a tough spot. I mean, this is not an armed opposition. This isn't like 1979 when there were millions of people, in the streets here. It's much smaller. It's much less coordinated to the extent that, anything like this is coordinated. I want to see the Iranian people certainly rise up and replace this regime. And it's a good thing that the Ayatollah is gone, right? But I mean, at this point, how do they do that? And 3 weeks ago, the IRGC murdered 30,000 Iranians. So this is going to be a challenging thing. I think by this point, the administration thought that this would all be over and there'd be a new government. Not that easy.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now with that all being said, let's go to this report that just came out about an hour ago from CBS, where they're talking about Rubio walks back his comments about the Iran war after Trump contradicted him. Okay, these people are bumbling idiots.
Capitol Hill, where the United States Senate is teeing up a vote on the War Powers Resolution. That is happening later today, if passed in the Senate and the House. It could require President Trump to seek congressional approval for any continued military action against Iran.
If he signs it.
And there's no sign that it will pass the Senate. The vote comes a day after Secretary of State Marco Rubio briefed Congress on Operation Epic Fury. So yesterday, our Caitlin Huey-Burns pressed the secretary about the justification for the strikes. Listen to this exchange.
Yesterday, you told us that Israel was going to strike Iran and that's why we needed to get involved. Today, the president said that Iran was going to get
Yeah, your statement is false. So that's not what I was asked very specifically. Were you there yesterday?
Yes, I asked you a question.
No, were you the one that, because somebody asked me a question yesterday, did we go in because of Israel? And I said, you were asking me that follow-up. And I said, no. I told you this had to happen anyway. The president made a decision, and the decision he made was that Iran was not going to be allowed to hide behind its ballistic missile program, that Iran was not going to be allowed to hide behind its ability to conduct these attacks.
So let's bring in CBS News congressional correspondent Caitlin Huey-Burns. Caitlin, what is remarkable about that interaction that you had with the Secretary of State is, in essence, you were able to show on video how typically the administration deals with the press, right? Which is that when you ask them about something that they said on the record, the initial reaction, the first reaction is to decry fake news, say that's not what I said, that's not what happened. But in this rare moment, you happen to be the reporter who asked Secretary Rubio the question, who then elicited a response that you were just quoting back to him. I thought that was incredibly remarkable.
Hey, Vlad. Yeah, I mean, it's been a whirlwind on Capitol Hill today and yesterday and the day before with all of these briefings. And we keep receipts, we keep transcripts of all of the things that we ask and how exactly they are answered. And I do want to unpack a little bit of that, if I may, because Rubio was asked two different things in that briefing, in that press conference that he gave to us on Monday. The first question I asked him on Monday was, what exactly was the imminent threat? And I want to read to you what he said. He said, there's absolutely an imminent threat. It was that we knew that if Iran was attacked, and we believed they would be attacked, that they would immediately come after us. He went on to say, the Department of War assessed that if we did that, if we waited for them to hit us first, after they were attacked by someone else, Israel attacked them, they hit us first, and we waited for them, we would suffer more casualties and more deaths. So he brought up Israel in that exchange. Later, in a subsequent follow-up, a colleague from ABC asked specifically about Israel. And the Secretary of State said in that exchange that we were going to go ahead anyway. So I just wanted to, parse through the language there and say that we were not wrong and we were not putting any words in anyone's mouth. What happened the following day is that the president came out and said that America, the U.S., was always going to strike first. So what we are trying to do is get an accounting for the American people about the rationale for this war and what immediately led up to it. The Secretary of State told us that Iran has developed or had been developing nuclear weapons, had been trying to attain them even after the U.S. Obliterated, in Trump's words, their weapons program, and that they had a growing ballistic missile program. So we're just trying to assess what the rationale is for this war, given that 6 service members have been killed. And I do want to underscore that General Kane started his remarks paying tribute to those service members who were stationed in Kuwait. And I really think, we should be focused on that as we are asking questions about the scope of this war and what is going to happen next, how long we're going to be engaged.
You're looking at pictures of 4 of the 6, and I think to myself, the youngest was 20 years old. Think about where you were in your life at 20 years old and all the life that you've lived since then.
Yeah, and another point that I'll make here is that these were reservists, and reservists are typically in subsequent years after the Gulf War have been asked to step up in ways that back when I was a young cadet, you were not expected to do. And now we see in this particular case that these reservists lost their life.
And Vlad, they're stationed in Kuwait. My brother was a reservist. He did 2 separate tours in Kuwait. It is typically a place that you think you go, a safe place. So these families, I'm just really thinking about these families at this time.
So sad for the families who lost their loved ones. Honey, at the end of the day, I'm so glad my uncle and my brother are no longer in the military. Honey, my uncle retired, okay? Because he was a reservist as well. Now, with that all being said, so Israel is dictating America's foreign policy. This is what Durbin says, Senator Dick Durbin. Okay, let's get into it. He goes in on Trump about this whole war and what are the reasons for it, okay? Please pay attention. Roddy said the reservists seem to always lose their lives the quickest. Yeah, in some cases, absolutely. Okay, likes up, everyone. Please don't forget to like and share. Prayers and condolences to the families of those service members who have lost their lives. And like I said, it's more than just 4. That's just what they're telling us.
Mr. President, I ask consent to speak for 10 minutes.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. President. My friend, the Republican whip, says that we have a clear and present danger in Iran. Well, we're in the 5th day of this war, and so far we have 5 different explanations from the White House as to why we invaded Iran. Iran is triggering turmoil and chaos in the Middle East, that's for sure. But when you listen to these explanations of why we are willing to risk American lives, you wonder if the White House has clearly made up their mind about a strategy. Listen to them. Started with the State of the Union address and the president saying we have to stop Iran from developing a nuclear weapon. There's a bipartisan consensus for that position, but it's hard for this president to explain why in his first term he eliminated the international inspectors in Iran who were making sure that they didn't develop a nuclear weapon. Those inspectors were eliminated by President Trump in his first term. The second explanation of why we are at war in Iran was their development of ballistic missiles. And yet we know that this is reminiscent of the excuse given for the invasion of Iraq years ago. Remember the allegation that there were weapons of mass destruction which could harm our allies, even the United States? Ballistic missiles in Iran are not capable of reaching the United States. Using that as an excuse as a clear and present danger is hard to rationalize. The third explanation of the five we have so far from the White House is regime change. Regime change. Well, certainly the Iranian people deserve a regime change, but are we willing to back them up? If they go in the streets and are being massacred and slaughtered like the previous administration in Iran was responsible for, what will we do? Send troops to the streets of Tehran? That has never been explained by this administration. The fourth explanation for our invasion of Iran, given by the White House in this early stage, is that the Israelis were going to do it anyway, and we'd probably be dragged into the conflict. Really? So Israel is dictating America's foreign policy? The fifth explanation I heard on the radio this morning from the president last night. A nuclear war was about to be launched by Iran. Really, with what missiles? What capacity? What weapons? This is a theory that isn't backed up by any type of fact.
And also, what is he talking about? A nuclear war? Didn't he say that he destroyed Trump? Didn't Trump say that they had destroyed, obliterated all of their nuclear capabilities? Isn't that what he said? Lying dog. Let's continue.
Here's the reality. 5 days into this war, we've had 5 different explanations of why we're in this war. Let me tell you my experience, having been here on the vote to go to war in Iraq. It is far easier to get into a war than it is to get out of a war. I remember that vote. I remember that night here, standing in the well of this body, when I was one of 23 senators, 1 Republican and 22 Democrats, who voted against the invasion of Iraq. We knew at the time that there was a possibility that a larger war would emerge than just a simple invasion, and it did. For 9 years, we fought on, American soldiers valiantly doing their duty, and many of them losing their lives in the process. It is far easier to get into a war than it is to get out of one. This scattershot explanation of why we are going into Iran does not give me confidence that this administration has a clear strategy, but it does confirm my fear that we have an impulsive commander-in-chief. Impulsive? Remember when he said he needed to have Greenland as part of the United States, and he was willing to defy not only Denmark, a traditional ally of our country, but also the NATO alliance to do it? Our commander-in-chief in Greenland? Even worse, declaring that this nation of Canada should somehow become the 51st state of the United States.
Yeah. Trump's a whole idiot. Okay, please pay attention. Now let's go to this clip where Russia sent a warning to the U.S. about 15 hours ago. Russia's Dmitry Medvedev.
Russia has issued a chilling warning over the escalating U.S. war against Iran. Deputy Chairman of Russia's Security Council, Dmitry Medvedev, says the conflict risks spiraling into a global catastrophe. In a sharp attack on US President Donald Trump, Medvedev warned that Washington's actions could push the world towards a third world war if the current course continues. Formally, no. But if Trump continues his insane course of criminal regime change, it will undoubtedly begin. And any event could be the trigger. Anything. Medvedev also framed the confrontation as a wider geopolitical struggle, accusing the United States and its allies of waging a war to preserve their global dominance. The former Russian president also warned that Washington's decision to strike Iran could ignite anger across the Shia world and push Tehran toward nuclear weapons development. This is a war between the US and its allies to maintain global dominance. The pigs don't want to leave the trough. Trump made a grave mistake. With his decision, he put all Americans at risk, even though the Iranian regime is unpopular in neighboring Arab countries. The main point is that the late Ayatollah was a spiritual father to nearly 300 million Shiites. And now, he's a martyr. You can imagine the rest for yourself. And now, there's no doubt that Iran will redouble its efforts to develop nuclear weapons. Medvedev then issued his most dramatic warning yet about the consequences of a nuclear confrontation between major powers. There are no magic cures for the actions of complete idiots and complete bastards, and there never will be. There's only one guarantee. The US fears Russia and knows the price of a nuclear conflict. If it breaks out, Hiroshima and Nagasaki will be like child's play in a sandbox. Despite the warnings from Moscow, President Donald Trump has defended the ongoing military campaign against Iran, saying the United States is determined to eliminate what he calls the threats posed by Tehran.
And I said that from the beginning. They're never going to have a nuclear weapon. They were on the road to getting one legitimately through a deal that was signed foolishly by our country. And finally, we're ensuring that the Iranian regime cannot continue to arm, fund, and direct terrorist armies outside of their borders. And we thought we had a deal, but then they backed out. And they came back, and we thought we had a deal, and they backed out. I said, you can't deal with these people.
Trump is straight lying. Oh my goodness, this man is straight lying, okay? Above all that drama, said outstanding broadcast, Your Highness. Thank you, beloved. I appreciate you. And thank you for being a member for 4 months. Oh my goodness, this man is lying. Do y'all hear this? Talking about they backed out of the deal, then they came back and Trump. Oh my goodness. But let's continue. Let him cook.
Got to do it the right way.
Medvedev's warning comes as the war between the United States and Iran continues to intensify across the Middle East. While Washington insists the campaign is aimed at crippling Iran's military capabilities and preventing it from acquiring nuclear weapons, Moscow is warning that further escalation could push the conflict far beyond the region. With both sides hardening their positions, fears are now growing that the crisis could spiral into a wider global confrontation.
Okay, let's not forget that right now Saudi Arabia is the only one supplying oil to China. Okay, let's not forget that. And so, what do you think China's going to do if they fear they're going to run out of oil? Because right now, like I told you, they've been stockpiling their oil since January. Now, they have about enough to last 100 days. Okay, they have about enough to last 100 days. So what do you think they're going to do if it starts looking like they may run out? Okay, they might just join in, them and Russia, who are Iran's allies. Okay, now they haven't tapped them in right now because they really don't need to. But if it gets to that, just think about that. Okay, just think about the consequences of that. Now, here's what was reported just about 30 minutes ago. Qatar PM holds call with Iran's FM, condemns attacks as breach of sovereignty and international law. This has been reported by Al Jazeera. Okay, so let's get into it. Sosa said, I do not trust Saudi Arabia. They are all about the money, playing both sides. Yeah, and so is Trump. Trump's all about the money and playing both sides too. Okay, that's exactly what he's doing, because I feel like Israel is absolutely the ones that hit that that attacked that refinery, that oil refinery in Saudi Arabia. I absolutely think Israel did it. Iran likely would have said it was them if they had done it. Okay, now with that all been said, why would Israel do that when Trump is friends with Saudi Arabia and Trump is working at their behest? Okay, think about that. Trump is playing both sides against the middle himself. Okay.
bin Abdurrahman bin Jassim Al Thani has held a phone call with Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. The Prime Minister categorically denies claims by Iran that the missile attacks were directed solely at U.S. interests. Laura Khan is in Doha for us. I understand that this has come as a result of a statement that's been released from the government, and it is a long statement. Just talk us through what we've been hearing about this.
This is a very important statement because it will signal the first time Qatar has had contact with Iran since this war began 5 days ago. I went to a press conference only on Tuesday where they were saying there was no contact with Iran, but the missiles that had been volleying over, from cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, and also numerous drones, as well as some aircraft coming into the territory, was an attack on Qatar's sovereignty. It was an attack on its energy, on its civilian infrastructure, and its military infrastructure. So this phone call between Qatar's Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs, Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman bin Jassim Al Thani, and also Abbas Araghchi from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Iran, signals not only this first connection, but this disconnect between the two, where Iran's saying, no, we've only been aiming towards U.S. interests across the Gulf region and in Qatar, and essentially they're disagreeing, saying absolutely not. And this rhetoric from Qatar just hasn't changed. It's been very stable. From the press conference I went to, from the spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, where essentially saying Iran crossed every single red line by attacking the country. Not only had it attacked Al Udeid Air Base, which houses the U.S. Air Force, but also this is a Qatari air base. Qatar built it. It has Qatar's Air Force there, but also other areas such as Hamad International Airport, a major travel hub in the country that has thousands of people coming through on a daily basis, and of course, civilian infrastructure. Now, there has been a lull in anything being volleyed over this evening so far. Only at dawn, we know 2 cruise missiles and a number of drones came in. So, yeah, we're going to wait to hear more, but they did say they have every right to respond to this.
Interestingly, Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian has just posted on X, and he's posted a statement both in Arabic and in Farsi. I'm just going to read it out, Laura. Your Majesties, heads of friendly and neighboring states, we have strived alongside you and through diplomacy to avoid war. But the American Zionist military aggression has left us no choice but to defend ourselves. We respect your sovereignty. We believe that the security and stability of the region must be achieved through the collective efforts of its states. That statement coming out from Masoud Pezeshkian, but at the same time, of course, we have been seeing successive strikes across the Gulf today.
We have done indeed. And in the past few minutes, there's been a message from Bahrain's Interior Ministry saying that they are sounding the sirens, that they have been under attack, warning people to be vigilant and stay safe. We know that Kuwait has also said they've been under attack from armed groups from Iraq that could possibly be supporting what Iran is doing in the region. And they said there were civilian casualties as well as casualties in the military. So they actually summoned their charge d'affaires from Iraq, handing him a protest letter saying that they will respond to this. We've seen a huge amount of attacks towards the United Arab Emirates, not just at dawn today, but throughout the 5 days. It's been one of the worst affected. There were around 121 drones sent in from the Islamic Republic of Iran at dawn this morning, and also 3 ballistic missiles. The majority of them shot down. Some of that debris landed inside the country. And essentially, the United Arab Emirates is seeing much of its civilian infrastructure also being hit, as well as military targets. So, yes, there seems to be this message, but also reiterated in this message from Qatar's Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs, saying we're being dragged into a war that we never wanted to be part of. And historically, this has been a major hub for mediation. This has been a major soft power for Qatar. So they are absolutely rejecting this and said that they can respond.
And they can respond, but at the end of the day, Trump got them involved in this. Okay, Iran is attacking the GCC. Please pay attention. Okay, that includes Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar, the UAE, Bahrain, and Oman, like I told you all. And they're attacking them because they supply the U.S. with hydrocarbons, okay, with crude oil and petrochemicals and other things, like I told you all. Okay, these are energy resources that the United States needs, and Iran knows what they're doing. They're going after that. This economy is about to tank. Okay, please pay attention. And you've no one to thank but Trump. Now, with that all being said, let's go to this report just in from 6 minutes ago. Iranian Deputy FM details country's nuclear materials to MS Now.
National security reporter David Rode is with us, foreign policy editor-in-chief Ravi Agrawal, and the Iran project director at the International Crisis Group, Ali Weiss, is also joining us. David, let's start with, we just had a conversation with the deputy Iran foreign minister, and it sure sounds like this war is not going to end anytime soon. He also seemed to take issue with what we heard from Steve Witkoff about Iran's nuclear capabilities that were reportedly presented during negotiations. Let's listen.
So we were not bragging. We were just saying that this is the results of our scientific achievements, but we are ready to send this. To get rid of this, provided that we will get something good in return.
So to clarify and just to really drill down on this, does Iran have enough enriched uranium for 11 nuclear bombs?
No, we have. It is no secret. This is based on the information which appears in different IAEA. The point is that amount of 60% enrichment, if it is enriched to a higher degree, that would amount to 10.2 bombs. That did not mean that we were looking for possessing 10.2 nuclear bombs. We were telling the American delegation that this is the assessment by the European experts, that this amount of enriched 60% enriched uranium can deliver around 10.2 nuclear bombs. But we did not say that we are going to use them. We did not say even that we wanted to enrich that amount to a higher degree.
David, I heard him say that they were prepared to potentially give that up, that enriched uranium.
Yes, and it's a confusing situation. So what he was saying is that they have this much enriched uranium. It needs to be enriched to a higher level to be used in a nuclear bomb. But there was, if they were to enrich it to that higher level, then they could make the 10.2 bombs. He's talking about European experts, the IAEA, that were doing the international inspections. What Steve Witkoff said is that in private, they were sort of bragging about the amount of enriched uranium they had and that they were sort of defiant. And it's really hard to know what actually happened. The Iranians deny it. Witkoff says that. But it's clear, we heard from other sources with knowledge of the talks, and again, it's a he said, she said. The Iranians are willing to make a better deal, give up this enriched uranium than President Obama got, and then also open up business dealings, opportunities in Iran for the Trump administration, for the United States, for oil, gas, and rare earth minerals. And to be fair to, administration officials, they just said that was not what was said in private. The Iranians are never serious. And this is, I guess, why, we're at war right now.
Now, I just want you all to pay attention to what that man said. They were willing to negotiate. And Trump said that the Iranians are never serious. He just wanted to go to war. Okay, he just wanted to go to war, and he's going to pay for it heavily.
But the only reason it's important is sort of this question of why did the United States need to launch these attacks now? And again, I met the Omani foreign minister who mediated the talks last Friday. This was hours before. He flew to Washington. He described the Iranian position in private to J.D. Vance. And literally later that night, Friday night, it was sort of 2 a.m. Saturday, the U.S. starts the strikes. So he was hopeful, and there was going to be talks with European experts in Vienna this coming Monday. This was the Friday afternoon, but instead, early Saturday morning, the bombs start falling.
Ali, what's your reaction to what we heard in that conversation I had?
What Trump did was he tried to play them. He acted as though he was going to be open for negotiations, that they could come to some sort of agreement. Then that was on Friday. And then, but what, they had plans for a talk or whatever, coming to an agreement. But then on Saturday, okay, in the dark of night, Trump did what he did, okay? A sneak attack, basically. And he, like I said, this is why they're so mad. Okay, this is why they're so angry.
With the deputy foreign minister of Iran.
Look, there is no doubt that Iran had a big stockpile of 60% enriched uranium, which is sufficient for 10 sophisticated warheads, but also for rudimentary warheads in the way that we designed the Hiroshima bomb, for instance, which was not a very sophisticated bomb. This is not a secret. The Iranians were willing to give it away. But the Trump administration was in pursuit of maximalist demands. It wanted Iran, as Witkoff has said, as the president has said, they wanted Iran not only to completely give up its nuclear program, but also to disarm itself from its ballistic missiles, completely change its regional policy. What they wanted was Iranian capitulation. And that was never on the table, was never on the cards. And let us remember that we had a nuclear deal with Iran in 2015 that did put Iran's nuclear program in a box under very strict restrictions and the most rigorous monitoring mechanism ever implemented anywhere in the world. And President Trump decided to get out of that deal, tear it apart, and pursue a set of maximalist demands that were never achievable.
Ravi, Ayatollah Khamenei, who was killed, his second son is now seen as a top contender to become the new supreme leader. What do we know about him, and is he any different from his father?
He is a hardliner like his father, but I have to say I was a little bit surprised by the news of that when it emerged. And of course, it is not confirmed at this point. I should make that clear. But, one of the points of the Islamic Republic and the revolution when it happened was that they were against hereditary leaders, and so hereditary rulership. And so were Mojtaba Khamenei become the successor to his father, then of course that means Iran has just elected a hereditary leader. And so that would go against one of the tenets, as it were, of the revolution. The other thing, of course, is that the minute they announce the next leader, that person has a target on their back. It's very clear that Israel and the United States will try to keep taking out anyone that they perceive as being powerful within the leadership of Iran. I will say, though, that what happens in the next few days is very much now a game of missile math for the United States and Israel. What they need to focus on is taking out more of Iran's ballistic missile launchers before Iran can keep attacking and have Israel and the United States run out of their interceptors. So in the coming days, that missile math, who runs out of launchers first and who runs out of interceptors, is actually going to determine how all of this plays out.
Y'all heard that. Now, with that all being said, let me go to this comment. Aquagirl Rising said, this war was planned years ago by both sides. Kamala Dev said this is what she would do. Well, not necessarily. That's not exactly what Kamala said. Kamala said that Iran was one of our greatest adversaries, but she did say that she would protect America's interest, and she talked about their nuclear capabilities. Now, with that all being said, protecting America's interest is one thing. Going to war, a whole proxy war at the behest of a whole other country that we shouldn't have had anything to do with, is something totally different. And also, yeah, it was planned on years ago, not by both sides, but by Iran. That's why they're whipping ass. The United States did not plan on this. Okay, they may have thought about it, maybe, but they didn't make a plan. That's why they have no plan right now. That's why Trump is lost in the sauce and keeps flip-flopping, saying one thing and then another, because he had no plan. He didn't know plan on how long this was going to last. He probably thought it would end quickly, but now he doesn't know. He also underestimated Iran. Okay, so yeah, they didn't make a plan. The United States did, not as far as I'm concerned. But now let's switch over and go to MAGA Mike, okay? Because he's asked if the GOP is voting down Iran war powers resolution. Could it be a problem for the GOP in midterms? Okay, this is a report from 20 minutes ago.
Thank you. You obviously don't think that the president needs an authorization from Congress for war. But do you think if this goes south after a while, and Democrats are going to have a vote tomorrow in the House, try to engineer a war powers vote tomorrow in the House, that could be a problem for Republicans this fall if there is public sentiment against the war down the road?
Look, we don't make political decisions at a time like this. We're making decisions that are necessary to keep American citizens and troops safe. That is the first responsibility. Unlike the Democrats, we don't sit around in a back room and decide what's politically expedient. We do what we must do to protect the homeland, and we let the chips fall where they may, to protect our interests, to protect America first priorities and principles, and that's the people of this great country. And so I trust the American people. I trust that they will evaluate all these things and they will understand that this administration did the right thing. I think they'll reward it politically, but if people get a bad taste in their mouth for what happened back here in the first part of the year in Iran, they just do. But we know, and history will record, we did the right thing. I think passage of a war powers resolution right now would be a terrible, dangerous idea for all the reasons I've just explained. It would empower our enemies. It would kneecap our own forces, and it would take the ability of the U.S. military and the commander-in-chief away from completing this critical mission to keep everybody safe. Iran has attacked 3 of our U.S. embassies in the last couple of days. Okay, those are sovereign territories of the U.S. They have declared war on us. I don't believe in the semantics. We've talked about the language this morning. We're not.
What does it mean they have declared war on us? If you strike them, they're going to strike back, and as they should. Is he crazy? Clearly, these people are just out of their minds.
Not at war right now. We're 4 days in to a very specific clear mission, an Operation Epic Fury, which has 2 components, as you know, that we have articulated over and over. The president has, the Commander of Joint Chiefs, everybody has explained. 2 points. We had to take care of these ballistic missiles that they were producing at such a rapid pace that our regional allies could not keep up with. We had to ensure that they can't fire all those barrage of missiles at our people, our troops, our assets, our citizens in the region, and our installations. We're taking that out. We had to. It's a defensive operation, and secondly, we had to take their navy down. That's effectively what, in layman's terms, that's what's happening right now. That will be done quickly, as they explained this morning. We're I think hours away probably from having full operational control over the skies over Iran, which means that this mission can be completed quickly. We expect that it will be, and then we will hope and pray that the Iranian people take this moment of opportunity, rise up, take their country back, and that freedom can flourish.
Let me tell you all something. It has just come to my attention that Trump is talking about Armageddon. Okay, please pay attention. We're about to get into it because a U.S. Army commander told his troops that Trump has been anointed by Jesus himself to wage war on Iran. Okay, on Iran. Now, hold on. This was just about 3 hours ago, it was reported, but they also say U.S. troops are being told that Iran war is intended to bring about Armageddon. This is according to a watchdog report. Let's get into it. So American service members across every branch of the military have been told by commanders that the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran is intended to induce the biblical end times or Armageddon, okay, according to complaints lodged by the U.S. watchdog. This morning, our commander opened up the combat readiness status briefing by urging us not to be afraid as to what is happening with our combat operations in Iran right now. A non-commissioned officer said in an emailed complaint lodged with the Military Religious Freedom Foundation, known as MRFF. He says he urged us to tell our troops that this was all part of God's divine plan, and he specifically referenced numerous citations out of the book of Revelation referring to Armageddon and the imminent return of Jesus Christ. Do y'all hear this? Do you all hear this? Okay. Trump is indeed the Antichrist, and so is Bibi Netanyahu, and so is Bill Gates, and so is Elon Musk, okay? And so is Jared Kushner. You know, the Antichrist is an energy, it's a spirit that comes upon people that makes them act and be satanic and do the devil's work, and that's what they're all doing, in my opinion. Now, with that all being said, this is all biblical prophecy. Like I told you all, America's about to fall, though. I don't know what Trump's thinking. Now, the MRFF is a nonprofit dedicated to ensuring religious freedom for members of the U.S. military. The officer who wrote to the group said he penned the message on behalf of himself and 15 other members of his units, including at least 10 Christians, who are all stationed in the region in a ready support function. Now, the other members were identified as one person who is Jewish and one who is Muslim. The religious beliefs of the other three, if any, were not known. Now, Anadolu obtained a copy of the complaint from the MRFF after independent journalist Jonathan Larson first reported on the issue. Now, they say the officer's message was one of over 200, okay, that the foundation has received across more than 50 military units since Saturday when U.S. President Donald Trump announced the beginning of sweeping strikes against Iran, a campaign the U.S. is embarking on alongside Israel. Now, Trump has repeatedly facilitated when commenting publicly on his aims for the war on Iran, saying Saturday in a brief telephone interview with the Washington Post newspaper that his intention was to bring freedom to the Iranian people, a thinly veiled reference to regime change, mind you. But then Hex had said, this isn't about regime change. Isn't that what he said? Yeah, they all are just talking crazy. They say one thing and then they say another, and they continuously contradict themselves, just like Marco Rubio had to go back and walk back his comments on the war because Trump directly contradicted him. Now, the objectives whipsawed over the following days, even as Trump has called on Iranians to take back their country from the revolutionary government that has led the country since 1979. The U.S. mission in Iran is to eliminate Iran's conventional ballistic missile program and its Navy, to bring an end to Tehran's regional proxy network and ensure it can never achieve a nuclear weapon, a long-stated goal across multiple U.S. administrations. Iran has long publicly rejected allegations that it seeks to develop nuclear weapons. Now, the officer whose identity was withheld by the foundation out of concern for retribution from the Pentagon, said the commander further told the unit that Trump has been anointed by Jesus to light the signal fire in Iran, to cause Armageddon and mark his return to earth. He had a big grin on his face when he said all of this, which made his message seem even more crazy and nefarious. Our commander would probably be described as a Christian first supporter. This is what the officer who identifies as a Christian said. He has been this way for a very long time and makes it clear that he desires all of us under him to become just like him as a Christian. But what he did this morning was so toxic and so over the line that it shocked many of us in attendance as the ops readiness briefing. Now, Anadolu sent multiple requests for comment to the Pentagon, but none received responses as of the time of this publication. Religious overtones have run high in the Israeli-U.S. attacks. A day into the offensive, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu referenced a Torah command comparing the Iranian regime to an ancient biblical foe, one that has also been invoked in reference to the Palestinians, saying, we read in this week's Torah portion, remember what Amalek did to you. We remember and we act. This is what he said during a visit to a site struck by an Iranian missile. Now, The Amalekites are described in the Hebrew Bible as a persistent adversary of the Israelites and are associated with the Torah commandment to erase their memory. See, this is what I was talking to you all about the other day. Okay, remember when I told you all, and I do believe it was Tucker Carlson who was talking about this when he asked that, I want to say it was a rabbi that he was speaking to, and he asked them about the biblical context of this and how Netanyahu talked about the Amalekites who are described as being the adversary, okay, and saying that he wanted to erase their memory. He said that means genocide. He said, isn't that what this is all about? And the man didn't want to answer. He said, you'd have to ask him, okay, you'd have to ask Netanyahu. Do you all remember that? Now, Mikey Weinstein, a former Air Force officer and legal counsel with the Ronald Reagan White House, now serves as the president of the MRFF. And he said Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, I'm sorry, that's Secretary of War, that's what he meant, has taken a jackhammer to longstanding barriers between church and state at the Pentagon since he assumed office last year. Says MAGA has destroyed this. Okay, their approved solution is to be straight, white, Christian, and male. And that's bad enough, even when you find Christian nationalism in elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, and colleges, right? Legislatures, the cops, the firefighters, the sewage workers. This is what Weinstein said. But when you find it where all the nuclear weapons are and laser guided weapons and drones, it is an absolute threat, an immediate threat, not a shift, but an immediate threat to the national security of our country and the world. Now, part of Hegseth's injection of religion into the Pentagon has been regular monthly prayer gatherings that have recently featured Doug Wilson, a far-right evangelical Christian nationalist who has defended slavery, called for a reversal in women's rights, and even proposed the U.S. becoming a theocracy. So what Hegseth has done has been to rip asunder the very essence of our U.S. military, destroying what our U.S. Supreme Court has determined to be the compelling governmental interest when it comes to the First Amendment in our military, which is to maximize its lethality, and you do that by maximizing good order, morale, discipline, unit cohesion, health, and safety of the troops, and mission accomplishment. This is all what Weinstein says. Now, injecting Christian nationalism into a racial, and multi-religious military is at stark odds with its long-standing underpinnings. Okay. Instead, Weinstein said, the concept that Hegseth pushes is all of Christ for all of life. That's the concept he's pushing. All of Christ for all of life. So now they're so religious and they're such good Christians. Yeah, no. That overhaul, he added, has contributed to the dramatic spike in complaints the foundation has received following Trump's decision to begin a war with Iran in the first place. Says it's exploding. Okay, this is what Weinstein said of the volume of outreach to his office. Now that ice has broken, we're being flooded. Okay, I want y'all to pay attention. I want y'all to pay attention. So now they're acting like this is all about a religious war. Please make it all make sense. Now I'm going to go to this last clip, and then we're going to get into something else that I want to discuss. Persian Gulf nations warn that Iran's retaliatory strikes could draw them into the conflict. We already saw one report about this, but this is one from CBS, so I just want to hear what they have to say. Likes up, everyone. Please don't forget to like and share. Thank you in advance.
Are our partners and allies in the Middle East going to respond? Because they're getting hit by fire because American bases are in their countries.
Right. They've been, that was the point that I was making with Matt. I think he thought I meant what diplomacy was being undertaken with the Iranians. I meant what is happening. Who are we talking to when it comes to the UAE, when it comes to Dubai, when it comes to Jordan, when it comes to Qatar? And so for that, we go to CBS News foreign correspondent Imtiaz Tayeb, who is joining us live from Doha, Qatar, this afternoon. It's evening where you are, Imtiaz. So again, the point that we were making with Matt, this is now drawing other countries into this conflict, something that the United States and Israel, my guess is, wanted to avoid, that this becomes a regional war as opposed to a war between the U.S. and Israel and Iran. So in Doha, what are you seeing, and what are the Qataris telling?
Now, here's the thing I find interesting about that. He said this is something that the U.S. and Israel both wanted to avoid. How did they not think that the GCCs would be involved in this? They didn't have the sense enough to know, or to at least think that Iran would start attacking the GCC countries, knowing that they supply all of this to our economy, all of these different things to our economy. They didn't have sense enough to think that. How could they possibly have not known this was going to happen? Okay, that would have been the first thing they should have thought of, if you ask me. Now, Nice M10K says this is one of many reasons why religion should not be entangled with secular government. Separation of church and state is profoundly important. Yeah, it absolutely is. Okay, it absolutely is. Thank you for your insight into the topic and your contribution to the channel, beloved. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings.
Vlad, Adriana, the mood here was one of shock, one of fear, and now one of anger. There's a real sense of anger here that for several days now, Iran has been targeting not only Qatar, where I am now, but as we've been hearing, Gulf countries across the region. That includes Oman, that includes the United Arab Emirates, that includes Bahrain, that includes Kuwait, and that includes Saudi Arabia. All of these countries, some of which have trillion-dollar economies, has seen their airspaces shut, their economies closed, and incoming in a way that they have never experienced in decades, if ever. This is Doha. You can see this glittering skyline behind me. It is known for its five-star hotels. It is known for its safety. It's known for its security, and it's known for its wealth. All of those things are being tested right now, including here, in Dubai, and elsewhere. And it's part of a strategy by Iran to inflict maximum economic pressure across the region. Why would Iran want to do that? For them, they believe that if they can pressure countries across the Gulf, that they will go to the U.S., their ally, go to Israel and say, you need to stop this war. It is costing our economy too much. We cannot handle this. End this war now. It is a gamble, and it's a gamble that, frankly, has not paid off, at least for the Iranians, but Gulf countries are continuing to pay that price.
And Gulf countries are showing restraint. So far, they're really just trying to defend themselves by trying to shoot down some of that incoming. But at some point, will they start to join the offensive, or they also...
Right, because it's an interesting point, Imtiaz, and your reporting, which is the first I'm hearing of it now, which is the growing anger in some of these states, is an interesting one, because let's think back to our other the other conflicts that the United States has engaged in the region, including the first Gulf War and the second Gulf War, the war in Afghanistan. There was always a diplomatic effort to talk to our partners and allies in the region, if anything, in many cases, to sign them up to be a part of a coalition that would at least be unified on the messaging. There doesn't appear, at least from what we can tell, to have been any kind of engagement with those partners. In fact, what you're seeing is the State Department isn't even prepared to get Americans out of countries that want to come home.
Saudi Arabia is not going to sign up to join an effort that includes Israel.
Well, when you think about the effort that was undertaken to remove Saddam Hussein in the first Gulf War, where you had a very grand coalition of all these partners, it doesn't seem that diplomatic outreach has happened in this case, Imtiaz, and now we're seeing the repercussions of that.
It's a really interesting point that both of you raise, which is the complex geopolitics and dynamic here. I'll start with the one thing. You're right. Even though we saw for weeks President Trump massing troops into the Persian Gulf and around this region, and all of us were thinking, okay, something's going to happen here. What wasn't happening is any meaningful dialogue with Gulf countries about what could happen if Israel and the U.S. together would launch a war on Iran. And that's what's happened. And so these countries were not given advance notice. And so one of the concerns that many of these Gulf states has is that they've been able to successfully deflect most of the damage, even though it has caused some damage. You've seen those buildings on fire in Dubai and elsewhere. You've seen liquid gas fields here in Doha completely shut down, gas fields in Saudi Arabia shut down. And so what these Gulf countries are saying is like, hey, we didn't even have a chance to prepare for this. We didn't have a chance to figure out what we're going to do in the event of this. And then on top of it, you have hundreds of thousands of Americans across the region who are stuck. They want to go home. They have no way out.
Yeah, and America can't even get their own people home. They can't even get their own people out of Iran at the end of the day. Okay. But they think they're going to win this war. Okay, please pay attention. And now they're trying to make it about religion. So I want you all to listen to this because Marco Rubio said that Iran is run by lunatics, religious, fanatic lunatics. Well, you know, that's funny because Paula White, Trump's religious spiritual advisor, well, she's a whole fanatic. Do you all remember this clip? Let's get into it. I showed you all this years ago, and this will never not be hilarious as far as I'm concerned. But this is Trump's spiritual advisor.
Strike and 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 strike until you have victory. For every enemy that is aligned against you, let there be that we would strike the ground, for you will give us victory, God. I hear a sound of abundance of rain. I hear a sound of victory. I hear a sound of shouting and singing. I hear a sound of victory. I hear a sound of an abundance of rain. I hear a sound of victory. I hear a sound of an abundance of rain. I hear a sound of victory. The Lord says it is done. The Lord says it is done. The Lord says it is done. For I hear victory, 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 victory in the corridors of heaven. In the corridors of heaven, victory, 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 victory. For angels are being released right now. Angels are being dispatched right now. Hamanda aka ata raka teda baka sanda ata ambo osa kata rite eke banda ata rike tidi ashata. For angels have even been dispatched from Africa right now. Africa right now. Africa right now. From Africa right now. They're coming here. They're coming here. In the name of Jesus. From South America. They're coming here. They're coming here. They're coming here. They're coming here. From Africa. From South America. Angelic forces. Angelic reinforcement. Angelic reinforcement. Angelic reinforcement. Pika hata anda ata. Ora bata rata anda eke eke manda rasata. For I hear the sound of victory. 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 I hear the sound of victory.
No, she didn't say angels coming from Africa. Okay, please pay attention. But they want to talk about fanatics. I don't think they need to go there. Okay, I don't think they need to go there. Okay, please pay attention. I find it all so nefarious at the end of the day, but hold on. Listen to this. The same politicians who make the laws about your children bought trafficked children from the cartels based on age and preference. Okay? El Mincho kept a list. Please pay attention, honey. You're about to find out why they killed that Mexican cartel and why the U.S. intelligence helped them to do it. Okay? Allegedly, of course. So El Mincho kept a list of 221 global leaders, including the United States, which placed orders for trafficked children. That's what they are alleging, and I absolutely believe it. Okay, this is an Epstein war.
But he claims that the cartel leader El Mencho, who was just killed, had a list of all the different world leaders that were on it and who was trying to get children, because the drug traffickers make more money at trafficking children. And he has a list of world leaders and powerful people who are asking for certain kids and ages and types. And that list is what they're trying to protect right now.
One of the things that's going to become shocking out of Mencho is we have collected now the intel, the data on his computers and other data communication system. He has a list, 221, as I think it's counting, of all those global leaders, including many in the United States, who are placing their preference and their order in what kind of child they want to be trafficked across the border. So
is that going to go public? Because that's important that it gets.
It is. If there's anything I can do about it, Sarah, you better believe it's going to be public. But it's the same thing as the Epstein file. They are even now, as we're speaking, figuring out how to shut me up. How do we do it to where we hold people accountable, but still keep the system from collapsing, as you talked about earlier? We have to base our decisions on principle, not on what is expedient.
Did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear that? Okay, please pay attention. The devils have been busy. Okay. Now, here's what Tim Tebow had to say. They said breaking. This came out about 12 hours ago. America has over 89,000 devices downloading child R-wording videos in the last 6 months. This is up from 56,000 last time they checked. This is what happens when you don't prosecute the elites in the Epstein files. Okay, please pay attention.
It's over 89,000. We are losing the battle and we are losing the war, and boys and girls are suffering for it. And to give you an idea of the scope of what's happening in America, there's a red dot map right over there over my right shoulder. And that's just a 6-month screenshot of the US. And every red dot that is on there is someone that is downloading, sharing, or distributing child rape images, almost all under the age of 12. And there's over 330 of them just in that 6-month screenshot. And we know that 55 to 85% of them are also hands-on offenders. And we know that your average offender has 13 victims in their lifetime. The scale of harm right here in America is, to a certain extent, hard to comprehend. But that's why we're here. And when you knock down one of those doors, you also have no idea how many boys and girls you're going to find. From Operation Renewed Hope 1, one of the doors that was knocked down, when they went in and seized his computer, they found that he also had raped 30 other boys and girls in that neighborhood. So there's a lot of work to do. And Ranking Member Durman, you're right. We have to be able to act. A little over a year ago, I was at one. It's over 89,000.
So there's been a shocking development in the Jeffrey Epstein saga, and it's almost conclusive proof. It's as close to conclusive proof, I guess, as we can ever get that he's not dead. Jeffrey Epstein had his prostate removed. And how do we know? Because it's in the Epstein files. Here it is. You have high testosterone and still have a need for Viagra because you don't have a prostate, right? Jeffrey Epstein. Correct. So he didn't have a prostate. Here's another one. A patient Epstein, Jeffrey, this is from LabCorp.
Oh, I'm sorry, you all are saying that I was on mute. Okay, so what I was saying was that they're saying that Epstein isn't dead. Okay, they're saying that Epstein is still alive, and you know it has been reported that he was Mossad, and that was absolutely in the Epstein files. And so, with that being said, basically Epstein was allegedly, of course, sent here to gather blackmail information, okay, on these folk, which is exactly what he did. And so that's why I'm saying this is a whole Epstein war. Please pay attention.
This is in the files. It says after radical prostatectomy, we had a radical prostatectomy. This is from the autopsy of Jeffrey Epstein. His bladder had 5 milliliters of cloudy yellow urine. The prostate is slightly and diffusely enlarged with marked enlargement of the vermilabitanum. The testes are unremarkable. Boy, you don't want to hear that about your testes, do you? Grok, is it possible to grow a replacement prostate? Grok says no. It's currently not possible to grow a full replacement prostate gland for clinical use in humans. While research has made impressive progress in understanding prostate regeneration and creating lab-grown models, no technology exists today to produce a transplantable, fully functional human prostate replacement suitable for implantation. So no, if Jeffrey Epstein autopsy notes the health of his prostate, but it's known that he had previously had it removed, then he either miraculously grew a new one or that wasn't his body. There's really no other conclusions to be had. I agree with you, Awakened Outlaw. I agree with you. He didn't have a prostate, and the body that went through the autopsy did have a prostate, conclusively proving that that is not Jeffrey Epstein's body that they showed us. Jeffrey Epstein is 100% still alive.
Okay, y'all hear that? 100% still alive. Okay, we have been duped. Okay? We have been duped. Now, with that all being said, I'm not surprised at all. Not surprised at all. But here's something else you all should know. Here's something else you all should know. So the thing is, as they're talking about this trafficking of children with the Mexican cartels and all that, now I gathered a little information as I was doing my research last night, and I want you all to pay attention to this. So they have been removing and weakening the child labor laws. Now, why is that important? Well, I'm so glad you asked. Here's why it's important, because first of all, let us not forget that Trump put Linda McMahon in charge of the Department of Education. This is a woman who's married to the man who was covering up child sexual abuse. And who is that? Vince McMahon. If you all remember, I exposed him maybe 2 years ago, okay? Because unlike some, I report on all the people engaged in this stuff, not just Black people like Diddy, R. Kelly, and Bill Cosby, okay? With that all being said, and by the way, Bill Cosby's innocent. Now, with that all being said, what they have done is, now tell me how this makes sense, and isn't it suspicious? They're saying that children in elementary and secondary education, they're being moved out of the Department of Education and into the Department of Labor. Now think about that, being moved into the Department of Labor rather than the Department of Education. At the same time, they're weakening the child labor laws. What do y'all think that's all about? Okay, and let's not forget how they declassified teachers and counselors, you know, as and others, of course, as unprofessional. These are not any longer professional degrees that people who get this hold. Okay, I want y'all to pay attention. So, what do you think this is all about? They're still trafficking children. That's what it's all about. Okay, that's what it's all about. And let's not forget that I told you all days ago how Zelensky has put an order in place to where they can just come and snatch up children in, in areas where there's like, which are war torn or whatever, and they don't even have to have the consent from the parents. And also, he hired Marina Abramovich, the spirit cooking Satanist, okay, in my opinion, but we know that she's a spirit cooker. I think she's a Satanist, or why else would she act demonic? Okay, but hired her to be in charge of rebuilding the schools, okay, and working with those children. You all see how this is going? So nothing has stopped. The Epstein files are out there, but at the end of the day, this stuff hasn't stopped. And this is why people need to be prosecuted and people need to go to prison, including Trump. Okay, at the end of the day, we cannot let them get away with this. Now, Pensulola says Israel is losing. Yes, absolutely they are. Right, absolutely they are. Thank you for your insight into the topic and your contribution to the channel, beloved. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Now, there's one more thing I want to go to before I conclude this broadcast, because it has come to my attention also that there's some shady shenanigans going on down there in Texas with the voting. They say 12 hours ago, it was reported, they say this happened all over Texas today when Black and brown voters went to their polling stations and they were told they couldn't vote there anymore and they had to go elsewhere, but not really given a reason why. Okay, so let's get into it. This is just a brief clip. I find that all interesting. Because what do they mean? So what? Because what do they mean? You can't vote here. Okay, I'm going to share my screen.
Place where I live is far away, and I just wanted to vote here and get back to work. And she told me she wouldn't let me. I was hoping she'll just let me go in. She said I'm at the wrong place. I can't vote here.
I've always voted here, say, 8 years in a row now. I've come to this location, but now they're telling me that I need to go to another location to vote.
Did they explain why?
No, they didn't explain why. And then when I went online yesterday, because I knew they were going to try to do this, I went yesterday online to register and everything like that to find out where my poll is, and it got me nowhere.
These are the kind of games that the devils are playing. Okay? These are the games that the devils are playing. At the end of the day, above all that drama, said, don't cry on camera like that over a ballot. Well, at the end of the day, she's frustrated. I'm sure that's why she's crying. Some people cry when they're frustrated. Okay, at the end of the day, Goodness Rated Both said they turned back Jasmine Crockett voters. Yeah, of course they did. Of course that's what they did. Please. Okay, that's absolutely what they're doing. So, I just want you all to be paying attention to that. Songwriter Sunny said, crying? Yeah, she's crying, and y'all all should be crying too. Okay, please pay attention. Because if you're not crying now, you're going to be crying soon. Because the U.S. is about to lose this war badly. Okay, they're going down. All right, they're going down. And at the end of the day, nothing is going to stop. Okay, what's coming to the United States for all the nefariousness that they have done. Okay, please pay attention. Now, with that all being said, listen, I have some other information that I want to talk to you all about. So I'm going to come back later. This information is about Epstein, some of that, as well as this other story that I want to talk about Mr. Tendernism. How many of you know about Mr. Tendernism? One's in the chat. How many of you know about Mr. Tendernism? We're going to talk about that later. I'm going to come back probably around 7 o'clock. If y'all don't know, you're about to know, because I'm going to get into it later. Okay, and what happened with him. And so until then, I'm going to conclude the broadcast. I hope you all enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. Okay, each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, and never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. Okay, and also, when I come back, we're going to talk about somebody who was Epstein before there was Epstein. Almost the same story. Okay, we're going to get into it. Also, Ghislaine Maxwell, yeah, is she in prison? So I don't think she's in prison, possibly. There's somebody that looks a whole lot like her. Maybe it's a doppelganger. This lady was walking down the street. What I found interesting is the fact that when somebody called her name, she turned right around and looked. Now, that's instinctive what people do when someone calls their name. Even if they're not talking to you, when you hear someone call your name, you automatically look. I remember one time I was at a club and this guy asked me my name. And he kept hounding me. So I told him a fake name. I told him my name was Candace. This was like years ago. But anyway, nonetheless, I happened to be in the mall the next day and he saw me and he's like, Candace, Candace. He's calling me and I'm just not even paying attention because my name isn't Candace. And so he comes up and taps me on the shoulder. He said, hey, why'd you lie to me and tell me your name was Candace? And I said, it is. Because I recognize him. He said, that ain't your damn name. He said, I've been sitting here calling you for 2 minutes and you ain't even look. Okay, so I want you to pay attention. This lady turned and looked right around when he said Ghislaine. And she looked just like Ghislaine, okay? She looked just like Ghislaine. Now, we're going to get into all of that later. All right, so anyway, with that all being said, I love you all to life. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. Until next time, peace.
With that flavor all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen. Why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kunsa. You ain't helping my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. See a bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all at Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get madder. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threats. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece. This time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. circle, you touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen. Why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got gold all in my skin? God all in my blood. Kings all in my circle, you touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen. Why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got...